Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining today's session. Rebooting your EPC business for the new normal. We would be recording the webinar for internal compliance process, and kindly enter your questions in the box window provided on the panel. After the discussion, we would also post a very brief survey to get your valuable opinion so that we can improve this and use it for further analysis, and we would come up with very interesting topics as well. So we would discuss today with an esteemed panel of guests today. Maisam Saidi, Director and Innovative Technologies. Maisam is an entrepreneurial CIO and tech evangelist with 15+ years of deep knowledge, experience, and exposure in driving the digital agenda and cloud business in this region. He focuses on transforming existing business models to enhance business performance via customer experience and employee engagement to drive growth. He fosters cross-business functional unit collaboration to embed rapid service delivery methodologies and value-driven program management. We welcome Maisam to our program.
Thank you.
The other guest today is Suresh Chandrasekharan. Suresh Chandrasekharan is a Chief Solution Architect of RheinBrücke IT Consulting. He has over 2 decades of experience in solution architecture, pre-sales, and consulting, and has successfully implemented ERP solutions across the world. As a Chief Solutions Architect, Suresh comes with immense technical know-how and provides technical leadership and strategy in the domain of enterprise IT across different industries. My name is Srikanth Ramakrishnan. I would be the moderator for today's discussion. I come with close to 2 decades of IT experience, predominantly in global delivery and software program and project management, largely driven by IT and ERP strategy and integration-related engagements. Come with strong consulting experience with a senior management program from a leading Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. COVID-19 has caused disruptions in every sector imaginable, and it has not spared the EPC sector either. There have been many reports of delays in projects due to supply chain disruptions and low mobility among workers, workplace restrictions, and economic pressures. In today's discussion, we would be discussing on how the pandemic has altered the industry and what are the potential digital solutions to face current challenges. Over to you, Maisam. Would you please take this point and throw your lights? How are these things, going on EPC industries? How the global crisis affected the EPC industry, especially a significant portion of the work must take place on site and cannot be done remotely. How industry is responding to the current context?
Sure. Thank you very much, Sri, for having me here, and it's a pleasure to be amongst our esteemed audience as well. So appreciate joining us. I think it's a very interesting time for us. It's a very challenging time, and I think unprecedented times, right? So none of us expected these times, and now it's happened. So I generally put a positive note to everything, and I feel that it's important to stay positive. There's a massive learning gone through recently, and that is every big change needs an event. And one of the biggest changes in our industry that's happening is working remotely. Now that was something that was literally out of the question before, because generally the senior management and leadership of EPC organizations always felt that they didn't want to divide the site people who are usually in the heat and midst of doing the construction work versus the ones at the back of an air conditioning environment. There was always a bit of a drift that why are these people in the air conditioning offices whereas we are outside. Now all of that has changed. It's gone out of the window. It's about productivity. It's about aligning ourselves. It's about collaboration. It's about getting the job done. Everyone's forgotten. I mean, I remember in the IT as well, we used to have complaints. Well, your team comes in a bit late. What were they doing at night? And we obviously got through that barrier in time. but there were always these questions raised that, what is IT doing, and why are they coming in late in a construction environment which is supposed to start 6 in the morning or even earlier? So I think that's a big change. Working remotely, I would say it's a positive change. However, the cost implications of COVID is definitely it's caused it's upset the industry. The whole safety element, it's gone off the roof. So if you even look at organizations, the e-commerce world, which has actually benefited from COVID in a big way, even then, looking at the Amazons, they in the last quarter, the results were even. I mean, they didn't make a lot of money because all their profit went in operations, managing the safety side of things, with all this new workforce coming in. So it's the same with the EPC. We have to invest a lot of money. Plus, obviously, the projects in terms of the available projects and contracts were low as well in 2020 for obvious reasons. One more thing that I want to talk about very quickly is generally EPC is an industry that involves a lot of different parties. It starts from the client side. Obviously, that's your that's the one who's going to pay for the project, the developer, and then it trickles down to obviously your consultants, your project managers, main contractors, subcontractors. Now, think about all these people, and all of them are actually working towards one agenda. But honestly speaking, it's hard to collaborate when you're talking about a lot of different companies on its own, right? Working towards a common goal. Thinking about, again, the pandemic, it's actually brought people closer in a very, very amazing way because of collaboration. The use of Teams, the use of GoToMeetings, all of these amazing tools are being used now to a level where, again, I would say everyone's a professional now, and they're using these tools to the max. So saying all this, we're in a difficult time, but at the same time, the bar has gone up. In terms of data availability, still we lag behind. There's obviously issues around that because data is dispersed, and consolidation of data is still a problem. If you're looking for a single single system of truth, it is difficult to have because of obviously there are usually multiple systems. However, I think slowly but surely we are heading in the right direction, and better things to come forward from this. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Maisam. That is a good point to start with. Suresh, how would you view this current crisis in line with the specific nuances of EPC as a business? What is your take on this?
Thanks, Sri. Thanks, Mason, and good afternoon to all of you who have attended this meeting. And now, see, if you look at it, each industry, there is not even one industry which is not affected, right? But the damage is based on, or severity of the damage is based on how resilient your organization is, right? So it's purely based on that. Now, EPC assets, it is an industry which is, I would say, from a technology point of view, it is not very well prepared, actually. That is the way we need to look at it, right? Now, a couple of things what Mason talked about, actually, there's a huge shift in the way of working when it comes to the people. Many other organizations working from home become a habit, and that is not something which creates much damage, actually, or if you have prepared, that kind of foundation was ready. But when it comes to, let's say, EPC as an industry, it's not that actually people have to be on the ground because they have to perform the work, actually. You cannot work from home and perform physical activities, right? That is something which is a challenge. Now, as we all know, it is something which is completely unprecedented, as Mason said. And there's a focus shift as well, actually. People have been focusing more of growth and innovation, and one point in time, today, people are talking about efficiency and productivity, right? Now, how I can be more productive, actually, when I'm sitting at home, for the work I have to perform on the ground, actually, that's a big challenge, right? Now, what are all the huge challenges or big challenges is something which we need to look into. One is basically integration across the ecosystem is one of the huge challenges, I would say, especially in the EPC industry, right? And people are dealing with complex digital systems, actually, but it is not all of them were integrated. It's not a platform where all these systems have got proper connections established. Actually, there's no duplication of data. It's completely in the opposite way, right? If you look at it, there are a lot of duplication of data, a lot of information silos. There is no proper connectivity, so on and so forth. That's the biggest challenge actually in the The second important aspect is basically rationalization and standardization. Now, complex non-standard processes. That is what is there in most of the EPC companies actually. That is where it's important for us to work towards actually bringing standard industry best practices, right? Because we can always see the successful companies always standardize their process. They made the process very agile, lean, and that is when actually you can be more successful, right? That is very important thing. The other important thing is basically building digital talent, and it's all about not only just the IT manager. As Mason said, we call it the IT manager to the chief digital officer. That's the end of the story, right? That's not what is required. It is all about actually right from the top, the leaders and the executives started becoming the advocates of the digital transformation initiative and enable the end-to-end people and bring them on board is what is important. Actually, that is what the starting point. The other important aspect is how quickly we can secure the digital adoption. Now, we can talk about digital strategy, but how quickly we can bring it in, how we can implement it, so on and so forth. And talking about return on investment and value rather than just talking about minute items, right? So overall, it is important for organizations to looking at the challenge and start working with, right? There is a huge issue when it comes to EPC as an industry because of several other reasons, right? Because compared to other industries, there are multiple projects in multiple locations. Unfortunately, it is not consolidated, right? The challenge is similar to that. And how do we get overall control in place, actually, so on and so forth. So overall, from an EPC perspective, these challenges are there, and unless and until we address that, it is difficult for us to sail through the current crisis, right? And as I said earlier, literally all the different departments and aspects of an organization got affected because of this COVID situation.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Suresh. That's a wonderful point to start with. And that would probably take me more pointed question. How can EPC firms plan and execute, manage projects in current circumstances from an operational perspective? How are the EPC, basically, what are the things to consider? How can they adapt to the present new ways of working in the economic conditions? Maisam, over to you. From an operational standpoint, if you can throw some light, that'll be great.
Sure. It's like we've been talking about. Look, there's if you look at the industry, it is a cash intensive industry. Today, if you look at the scenario, there are payment delays everywhere, and it is not an easy situation at all, right? And when we look at how people used to manage their cash, especially in construction, where literally you are, I mean, the people downstream are actually waiting to work, but they're actually waiting for money at the same time, and it's because the whole environment is disrupted in terms of the cash flow affecting the industry. I guess the one underlying aspect is that even though there are a lot of systems available to help manage, the use of, for example, Excel. Excel is being used heavily in organizations. And if you look at, for example, I started the conversation with financials and cash because I want to take it to a direction where you understand that eventually you start using a system because you need some sort of a system to manage your financials. But then you look at it, what happens is all underlying processes that will impact the whole ecosystem are being managed on Excel because of the system either not being capable or the company being too rigid on not changing their processes. So this is a dilemma, and I guess this is a dilemma that's becoming more apparent with these crises because now there are more things to consider, right? And there are more cash related issues. So one thing is that we need to really relook, replan, and see. I think Suresh had a very good point about planning is is always an understatement. Plan, but plan with the times are changing now. It's not only about planning, but it's about executing as agile as possible and try to get results as quickly as possible. So I think that's the name of the game, is to survive this environment and do well. You need to plan, you need to be agile, and as an individual organization or a team in a project, alignment is still very important, and communication is very important. And again, with this whole scenario, I think it's become more apparent that better the flow of communication, the better the results will be. So we're going back to the basics. However, it's time that business and technology actually hold arms, and this is the time. This is that era where we can actually make a huge thing together. So let's get on with it.
Perfect. Thank you, Maisam. Suresh, how would you view this particular aspect in terms of the operational nuances? How can they adapt to the present new ways under the current economic conditions? How would you view this?
See, there are two aspects, right? One is basically we have to look at from a compliance perspective. The second thing is basically what other pressures do we have internally, especially a couple of points what Mason talked about, because the cash flow challenge actually in the receivables issues and the availability of fund in the organization, so on and so forth. If you look at from a compliance perspective, both internal and external, right? From an external compliance, many government started putting certain standards. One of them is basically the UK government's PAS 1192, which is more of designed towards using building information modeling system and implementing systems. Actually, traditionally people are using the 2D models, right, and moving that away from that and having 3D models as a standard, which they are introducing and asking the organization to do it. And then when we introduce such systems, actually we are initiating a digital transformation journey. But how quickly we can have all these things in a consolidated, integrated way is the question. Now, there could be internal compliance as well. We are due to certain country regulations and stuff like that, actually tax compliance and those kind of things as well. But at the same time, we also have a challenge in terms of the other pressure, in terms of there's a huge receivables issue, there's a huge fund issue, and this is something which is getting affected. The other important aspect is basically the logistics crisis, what we are facing today. Now, when we talk about the logistics crisis, many of them, I would say that actually cargo companies or transportation companies, they have an issue because of the grounded flights and other things. People like actually workforce disruption is another important aspect actually, which again got affected. Now, how do we overcome this kind of crisis is an important point, right? What we have to do is, an organization started thinking about embracing technology in terms of managing those actually. Now, one could be a software platform which allows organization to connect multiple remote sites and bring things together. In addition to that, actually, you can use IoTs, the Internet of Things, and you can also think about actually having drones, sensors, augmented reality, data science, and the analytics piece of it, especially to collate information and support the decision-making process so they can quickly take decisions and right decisions, actually. So embracing technology is something which helps, and how we can make use of the autonomous systems, the robotic process, RPA, robotic process automation, right, to manage certain repetitive tasks. So the solution and the new way of working is to accept the reality, and there is no point in keeping our eyes close to the reality and the facts. It is important for us to accept it. Rather than reacting to the situation, we have to respond to the situation, and that response is something which we can do by embracing technology. That is what the new way of working. We have to accept the reality, respond to that, and manage the current situation. That is what we should be doing.
Perfect. Thank you, Suresh. That is a good take on this. Just taking your point, and I would like to move to Maisam, in line with how the digitization, because you touched upon a few points like the usage of technologies like RPA or AI, drones and other stuffs. How digitization is helping the organization what are some of the major technology trends helping the EPC industry today overcome the crisis? How would you think technology can help EPC firms adapt to the present conditions and use them to, for a progressive change in the industry beyond the crisis? Because we're just not looking today because of the pandemic situation, but what I adapt to solve the problem, how can I go beyond from what I'm today? So Maisam, over to you from where Suresh left. If you can be very specific on the digitization roadmap specific to EPC, that'll be of great help.
Excellent question. And this is an exciting question as well, because it's very close to my heart. So look, if we look at progressive technologies out there, if you look at the growing trends, because construction has lagged behind for so long, I mean, if you compare it with banking or telco, we lag behind in terms of technology, right? And because of that, there's a lot of opportunity, and a lot of people, new entrants and startups are coming in. So you see all kind of wearables, be it clothing, be it your helmets, be it your blasters. Then we look at as Suresh mentioned, RPA, when you want to connect legacy systems and very quickly move it to a situation where you can actually automate business processes. One very used case today that's actually being implemented, which is more ML AI related, is the time and attendance systems, because we used to have long queues, the manpower, and there was a lot of loss in time in terms of time. And mind you, when you're talking about thousands of people losing thousands of hours, that equates to a lot of money, which we don't realize. So even though they're blue collar workers, it's a big loss. So we've had scenarios where people, our workers, they would line up for an hour, and if you multiply that with thousands of people, you can do the maths. So taking that example, you can see that there's cognitive based AI systems that are using cameras and letting people walking in and being images being captured. Now they are possibly not 100% accurate today because it's still being worked on, but it's a very good use case for the industry. Now, saying this, I would like to take a step as well as that, a lot of technology is coming in doesn't mean that everything is usable and everything is good for you. So you as an organization, you need to understand and see where you are standing today. So if you look at the digital transformation space, first things first is what is your mission? Have you defined what clear objectives do you have for, let's say, your next minimal viable products, right? So what do you want to develop, or what do you want to, let's say, acquire off the bench somewhere that would actually bring in your current operations, right? So clear missions is very important. It generally doesn't happen. We say innovation, we look at something good, we start doing a pilot or a POC. Complete waste of time. It might be working for someone, but it's probably not for you, because maybe you've got issues that are you have data related issues, and you're talking about getting variables in place. What are you going to do with that data, right? So setting clear mission is very important. Number two is obviously cross-functional teams and digital transformation. You'll always have your let's say your data scientists, but then the subject matter experts are very important, right? Because they are the ones who are actually coming from the business side and giving their input. Moving on to all your tech people, right? So you talk about your designers, your developers, your integration guys, be it your backend guys, all form a team, and then you all focus on that one mission that has been set by the committee on the top, right? With the time frame in mind. Moving, the next step would be your technology stack. Are you actually ready to create what you're planning to create or aspiring to create, or are you going to actually hit a brick wall because whatever you're aspiring to do is not ready from a technology standpoint? Is it ready to is it ready to be developed how you want it to be developed and tested, right? So a lot of good things have come out of your Azures and AWSs, but you need a lot of insight and to actually get it because it's all not ready plug and play. You need people to actually make it happen. Last but not the least, and I think this is really important, is quick feedback cycles. And again, going back to your customers, not necessarily your subject matter experts, but the people who are actually going to use these applications. Really important, because what happens is sometimes we get into this whole notion of, long feedback takes days, and it just halts the project, because you planned a project for 10 weeks or 16 weeks, and now one cycle is taking long for feedback. So you need to have more intuitive, quick, agile way of getting feedback, and it should actually help the development rather than halting it. So I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. Thank you, Maison. Suresh, how would you view the digitization journey towards the EPC firms, how they can adopt it? What is your take on this, Suresh?
First of all, Sri, the only solution to the current problem is digitization, right? And there is no other solution to the problem. And if you look at, there are a lot of research being done actually when it comes to digitization and how digitization can help organization to make it and better respond to the situations, right? And almost 93% of the construction company, they agree that digitization will affect every process in the organization. And another interesting result is around less than 6% companies make full use of digital planning tools actually. And if you look at most of the building material firms, they agree almost 100% that the digitization is not over yet actually, and they are just starting, and there is a lot of room for improvement is what they are talking about, right? Now the question may come up actually, what is digitization, right? Digitization is about business encountering connected systems at every link in the value chain. That is where the digitization comes into the picture. It is about working with tools and practices based on information and communication technology, right? And the understanding is it's not going to make things better. It is going to change the way things are going to happen, right? If it is just for making things better, digitization is not the solution, right? But the way things are going to work is going to change, right? And these days we are talking about people and machines working together, right? Especially in the robots and autonomous systems. And it is not human and human working together. Human and machine is working together, right? So things are going to be completely changed when it comes to digitization and how digitization is going to impact the overall way of things working. Now, when you talk about digitization, there are multiple aspects of digitization, right? One is definitely the digital data. So that is all about electronic collection and analysis of data. How quickly we can collect data actually in an environment where there are disparate systems, there are disconnected sites, and there are multiple other applications running which is not connected together. Now, how are we going to build a connectivity? How are we going to get information from there? And how are we going to analyze it and make a meaningful information to take decision? The next important thing is basically automation. That is where we are going to use technology, and that is where we are going to create autonomous, self-organizing systems actually. That is what the automation is going to help, right? When it comes to automation, there are different areas for automation, right? Actually, these days, people are building smart systems actually, and smart buildings. And as I said actually earlier, there are many areas where you can bring automation as a process in the organization. Now, the next important thing is connectivity. And connectivity across multiple platforms, multiple systems, and you also talk about actually things like multiple sites. Actually, the informations are all connected. You may have a single platform. One of the challenge people used to have earlier was they have their own ERP systems or platforms, which was not scalable when it comes to you go across geography, or when you have multiple sites, especially in a remote areas and stuff like that. So people used to perform everything on manual and bring it back and get it consolidated. And many organizations, even if somebody has invested in a digitalization, you see that actually it is more from a finance perspective when it comes to project execution and so on and so forth. The digitalization didn't reach that level of, I would say, that actually sophistication, right? So these days, what people need to think about is basically how do we connect these systems together? How do we work together actually? And how machines and people can work together, or systems and people can work together? How the connectivity can establish so people can use it anywhere, right? The next is basically digital access. When it comes to digital access these days, we are no longer tied to a computer systems. Actually, people are using sophisticated phones, and the phones are much maybe having much more processing capacity than a simple laptop what we used to use earlier. Now, how do we access things on those kind of mobile, on simple browsers and stuff like that, where it helps in terms of managing such things? So infrastructure is not a typically a bottleneck for me actually in the organization, because it is something someone else is going to take care of. So if you look at digitalization, that is every aspects in your value chain. Right from, let's say, that actually how you are going to deal with a customer when you have an inquiry, and then you move forward and say that actually, okay, that is the first thing, and second thing is when it comes to the next stage, which we are talking about, especially into estimation, project management, integration to different other systems like Primavera, Microsoft Project, basically to report things and progress and planning and scheduling to be done in terms of supply chain, so on and so forth. So every aspects of the life is getting automated, and every small points in the value chain is getting automated. That is what we are trying to achieve through digitalization, right? And that drive is something which is not easy, but we have to start somewhere, right? If you're looking for a perfect opportunity for us to do a perfect system, which is not practical, all of us know that. So where are we going to start is the question, right? The question is always, where is the low-hanging fruits, where you have the biggest return on investment or quickest return on investment? That is where you have to start it, and it is the time for doing that.
Perfect. Thank you, Suresh. I would also take procurement as a function, basically, which has kind of suffered a large disruption in the current, situation, the pandemic situation. How EPC firms can use procurement digitization to streamline their activities, especially in today's circumstances with the disruptions prevailing. Maisam, would you throw some light from a real-time perspective on the EPC business?
Sure. You've got, first of all, you've got amazing questions. So well done on that. Well done on the questions itself. I think procurement is like so important because it kind of, it's it's an important pivot in the whole EPC industry. And when we talk about procurement, the first thing that we need to understand is procurement works on allowables that are actually coming down from estimation. So they don't create their own budgets. They create estimation, right? So they can't work on their own. So one aspect is the estimation side. The other aspect is the project itself. If you know, in construction, generally once you start estimating project, it can take months or years to even get it awarded, and you might need to re-estimate it. By the time it gets to procurement, are they ready to buy? Are they ready to buy the right time? Because there's lead times in procurement as well, be it goods or services, and at the right price that will actually. Secondly, once it goes to project and they actually start execution, they similarly have challenges because let's say there was lack of communication or lack of communication in terms of information, not necessarily just communicating between themselves, but the information's missing, and that's really important because that information is going to drive the project forward. So something that I would really want to touch on was the human side of things. Is really important that the departments are aligned because procurement can't function on its own. Moving forward, if you look at the systems out there, are they ready to actually help you procure the best possible way? And that is again a question mark, because most of the systems designed are actually designed from let's say a financial perspective, or they're designed from more from an inventory perspective, right? But procurement being such an important aspect, it's usually missed, and therefore there's huge emphasis on redesigning, re-engineering your internal processes, and looking at the right systems to help you drive that is imperative at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Maisam. Suresh, how would you view this from our productization and strategy perspective, and also bring flavor of procurement digitization with the classic problems being faced in the industry? What is your take on this, Suresh?
See, first of all, the way procurement, we look at it actually, the procurement has got a larger role to play in an EPC industry, right? And not only in EPC, in every industry actually. The way people start looking at procurement as a function is no longer a cost center, right? It's more of a profit center. How quickly we can bring down the overall cost of services and materials we are procuring, right? So what we have to do is, it is all about moving away from the traditional price-based procurement to more value-based procurement. In other words, actually, it's more of strategic procurement, right? Strategic procurement is all about not dealing with thousands of suppliers, dealing with a number of suppliers actually, which is diversified. Continuous performance evaluation has been done, and they have rated well, and they are a reliable partner, no longer a vendor customer. It is a partner in their success, and as and when the supplier improve the efficiency in what they are doing, that efficiency in return they will get as a savings in the value, right? The value could be based on the better quality, it could be better price, it could be better on-time delivery, so on and so forth, right? And there is a lot of focus these days on a specific concept called SIFOD. It is all about supply in full on time, right? And how many times I'm delivering full on time? Am I always delivering late? I may be the best, I may be offering you the best price, but I'm never delivering you on time. What is the point in getting a best price actually? It is costing me more, right? In terms of, in the form of penalties and all of the kind of things actually. So procurement as a function has to, is already got evolved in many successful organizations actually. What is required to happen? Platform. It's all about a collaborative platform, buyers, communicate, and deal with their ability, when it comes to the and demands for the customer have what's the capacity and they can so overall, it is important to have the right process, the right platform for you to perform and that is where the digitization is required to procure. That's one area which is there's an interesting article published by one of the
Great, Suresh. Thank you very much. We have a wonderful customer success story. Probably that kind of a real-time scenario, how this was conceived and how this was taken forward. Suresh, would you be able to elucidate this?
Shri, I think Suresh has a connectivity issue. Let me just check. If you could just go ahead meanwhile.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So what it typically elucidates is from I've been involved in a previous journey that of EPC business where you had a very clear demand forecast, and there are clear need to match these forecasts right from your manpower, materials, so on and so forth, until the end-to-end automation was conceived. Hence, there was a demand-supply proportion that needs to be matched up with an aggressive timeline for which there was a need to implement overall ERP. Completely multi-site, I would remember it is around 15 different sites spread across different geography. So you obviously would need to go with a simplified project management setup where you will end up setting up individual projects, rolling out this into a very clear WBS work breakdown structure with very clear-cut manpower definition, your material definition, and all your cost structures defined within this particular work breakdown structure, followed by a very clear estimation module which comes from a different estimation mechanism, because a totally different technology basically was required. A product was required for estimation because it was a very large construction a business basically. So you look at a EPC construction kind of a business, you have a very specialized tools that is required. for estimation. So you would have those controls and those numbers to be flowing into your ERP. And when we talk about project management, there was a very clear necessity to roll the particular project schedule into different tools like Microsoft Project or Primavera. So there was a bidirectional integration that was required in order to level the resources, in order to provide a complete resource balancing and your entire Gantt chart, which needs to be shared with the customer on a day-to-day basis with a clear-cut project visibility. That's how the operational details of the projects got really started. So of course, it had kind of a clear-cut problem statement was people were used to go with Excel sheets, Microsoft Office, and a lot other gamut of tools within their kit, and completely voluminous. We are not able to manage the overall situations. Hence, there was a need for this. So when you onboard a complete hire to retire platform in terms of employee hiring with a clear-cut norms, training facilities, all your document automations are there with the approval mechanism, employee self-service portal and managed self-service portal, you would onboard everybody. And Maisam also touched upon this topic of integrating biometric system into the work sites. Cases were there where people do a planning when they start from home. There is a pickup trucks available. So when we do the pickup buses, people scan their IDs. So the planning mechanism can cross-check. Okay, today I need X number of labor force, and they're all on the way. That kind of a planning, a precise planning used to happen, and cross-checking used to happen. And thus we could execute a day-to-day work. Vis-a-vis the executed work gets rolled off in the form of a timesheets, expense management, rolls off to the project to provide a clear-cut cost in terms of revenue mechanism on a day-to-day basis. Needless to say, the whole things was integrated with a financial system, budget system. So your ARAP were completely automated in line with this, customer sites. And we would also augment basically this with a very clear-cut procurement platform in terms of mapping the demand and supply with a nice deep learning algorithm, so that optimal mapping was done with the NLP kind of an algorithm present. We were able to interact with the system without much of a bias in terms of product coding and so on and so forth. So it was a completely end-to-end success story that was present to keep the entire stakeholders happy. We could do this rollout approximately 12 months, 8 to 12 months it took actually to stabilize the entire platform. So that's how we got this completely done. And going forward, actually, a bit of introduction. Basically, together there is only, we can do very little alone, and together we can do a lot of things. Hence, we partnered with Inserito. Inserito brings a rich business domain experience on the EPC business, and RheinBrücke carries a lot of experience in Epicor as an ERP and Merlin as a platform to help our esteemed customers. So, Maisam, over to you. Please contribute from your perspective how we can help the EPC firms together in the form of RheinBrücke and Inserito as an alliance.
I think it's an amazing partnership, and it's an amazing partnership at the strategy level, because it's all about customer, and it's all about customer centricity, right? All we're focused on is excellence. And when we think about excellence, what we're trying to really achieve, what we're trying to achieve is that we can implement a steady system in a time frame, right? And when we talk about that, what we have developed together, and RheinBrücke is obviously a lot of time on it as well, is creating that blueprint whereby when we go into an organization, we can actually tell them this is how your financials supposed to work. And this is the least sort of this is the path forward that we should take, least resistance, because what we're looking at is possibly 90% of your requirements are going to be covered, and we can implement it really quickly. Versus if you look at a situation when customers come back, well, I want the remaining 10%. We say, hold on, no problem, later phases. But our focus is to give you the return on investment as soon as possible. And I think that's where the partnership goes really well, because of Inserito's domain knowledge and experience being in construction for 4 or 15 years. We understand the challenges and pain points. When we think about construction, we actually think about construction from completely customer side of things. Because we have sat there and understood the problem, we take that lens Whereas RheinBrücke obviously developing an amazing product on their own, they come with that knowledge. And together, I think we can really help the ERP customers and the industry as a whole.
Perfect. Thank you, Maizam. I would take a couple of minutes to talk about RheinBrücke at a glance and probably take questions thereafter. RheinBrücke is a global company with strong presence in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We are constantly focused on the mid-market with a strong multicultural and multilingual team that understands your regional needs. We believe that business can achieve the desired performance when IT is aligned to business strategy and operational business needs. Delivering value to your business is the mandate of every CIO and the IT organization within. We create truly unique value proposition through our cutting-edge solutions that leverage global cost models and best-in-class service by local experts. RheinBrücke is Epicor Platinum Partner and 2 times winner of International Partner of the Year. We have immense experience and expertise in providing Epicor implementation and support services to customers globally for past 7 years. We have executed projects in more than 30 plus countries and have 250 plus associates serving 5 of the global Fortune 500 companies, and are proud to be serving our happy customers across these locations. One of our flagship products is Merlin, which is a strategic sourcing solution that offers seamlessly integrated sourcing process automation, along with supplier relationship management and planning functions, augmented by advanced analytics and artificial intelligence. It plays a pivotal role in enhancing collaboration between buyers, suppliers through an intuitive platform. This also has certain AI-based models within. We have NLP models, and we're also in the process of building deep learning models to do a demand mapping mechanism in a artificial intelligence-based manner. The other products we offer are Brücke. It offers the collaboration between employee community, especially in the current business context, empowering employees to work from a virtual office. The other product we have is Expensa, which is a simple expense reimbursement management system. It's a mobile-based application available on cloud, and a seamless interaction with back office. You can integrate them with any of your back office applications. So these are the products that we are currently offering. We would take the questions from our esteemed audience, and kindly type in your questions on the panel that is displayed on the webinar window. And please be mindful, we would post a survey. We request your kind help to answer them, maybe very brief survey, 3 to 4 questions that will help us to improve in terms of what we're delivering to you. I would take these questions now. First question is from Durai. Thank you, Durai, for asking this question. Do we have an on-prem Epicor implementation with customizations? Can we opt for industry vertical solution while migrating to cloud? How difficult or easy that would be? Suresh, would you want to take this question?
Sure, Sri. Actually, that's an interesting question. First of all, I think for setting up the stage, what is verticalization, and especially industry verticalization, right? That is important to talk about that actually before answering whether we can move into industry verticalization cloud environment, right? First, you have actually, when we talk about cloud, generally people tend to believe that we have to compromise on functionalities and features, because it is more of a generic cloud. It is the same application being built for all the different industries, whether it is EPC, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is a, let's say, a trading organization, so on and so forth. The standard features and functionalities. So for the sake of having a platform, I will end up in compromising on capabilities and requirements actually, and compliance and so on and so forth. That is where RheinBrücke has added value by verticalizing this for EPC as an industry. So whatever is the requirement actually when it comes to EPC, is it the estimation is a key requirement? Is it project scheduling when it comes to interface with the Primavera or let's say a Microsoft project? Is it all about your S-curve reporting? Is it your project cash flow reporting? So on and so forth. Typically, there is all the requirement which is meant for EPC industry, which is required for them to function properly, is already been pre-configured in the system. Now the question is basically, when we are using such system, is it mandatory for all of us to use all the functionality? Definitely not. That is where we can again switch on and switch off functionality, what is required for each organization. Now, to answer to the second part of the question, so a customer who is on, let's say, on-prem installation today, they wanted to move into cloud. Yes, very much possible. What we typically do is basically we do a system audit and identify is there any customization which is non-standard, which is being done by the customer themselves or someone else, and we definitely provide them a solution. And the other important advantage what the customer get is, it is the right time for them to adopt the industry best practices. If they are doing a non-industry practice, it is time for them to adopt the industry best practice. And what we also provide is basically Insereto being, and it's a question you've been asked earlier, Sri, actually, what is the recipe for success, right? The recipe for success is basically the right product with the right technology, with a verticalization what we have done and the cloud platform on top of it, Insereto's experience in the industry to support the organization to adopt the industry best practices in that particular domain, right? That is where the perfect recipe for success. You may find several products in the market, but the biggest challenge is basically, is it just a product? Because there are many organizations who go and sell products actually, but we don't do that. We just provide value selling. That is all about actually ensuring the customer is successfully adopted the best practices and they are getting the ROI what is being forecasted in the beginning itself actually.
Great, Suresh. Thank you very much. I have a very interesting question for you, Maisam. This is from one of our esteemed audience, Dinesh Gupta. Thank you, Dinesh, for asking this question. This is from EPC business, specific to the domain. There are small solar microgrid infrastructure projects which need human intervention. How to cope up the situation where EPC firms work on distributed mid-sized project? One project typically takes 15 to 30 days on the ground and the team to be mobilized to the next location. I think you're the best guy to take this actually.
But can you, is the question around with the short-term projects, how do you mobilize teams? Is that what the question is?
With the current situation, like how quickly, probably I would assume, how to reduce the time and make it more efficient. That would be the question I would assume. Because it takes 15 to 30 days for mobilization. I mean, the distributed project takes 15 to 30 days, and probably wants an optimization there.
Sure. Very good question. And look, the thing is, with time, and obviously you need to look at organizations that have done it well, and hence you need to connect with peers, connect with people who are on forums who've done it well. So giving you, our own example that from my previous experience is that you need to have standardized processes, and standardized processes need to be defined in a way that it is automated, right? We talk about deployments, very quick deployments, for example. In this case, we're talking about mobilization. So let's say if I have a team of people who need to be mobilized very quickly, what I really need is internet. I need power, obviously, power supply generator. I need internet, and then the third thing that I need is laptop, and the fourth thing is systems, which will actually that I need to access. Now, if the systems are available in the cloud, I don't think there's any issues at all. So to answer the question, I think internet can be a challenge. Some locations are getting better and better, and you can start very quickly with your 4G routers and all of that available today. Because if you think about a permanent connection, it does take time. There's no way around it, to be honest. But you can have wireless technology get you up and running. and GPS technology gets you up and running. Then the systems are in the cloud. I mean, most of the organizations that are mature, they have all moved to cloud infrastructure. They're using DevOps, using SaaS-based systems as well. So it's pretty straightforward. As long as your systems are in place and you're ready, it could work. Like taking an example of disaster recovery. If you're in a disaster, how quickly can you come up and become up and running? It's the same as mobilizing something very quickly. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Maisa. That is.
And another probably add-on to what Mason said. It's all about having visibility in terms of triggering, or I would say initiating that in a better way, right? Visibility is what people are going to get with the help of this kind of platforms and technology.
Yeah. Great. Next is something very specific to Epicor. Thank you, Durai, for asking this question. How can Epicor help in remote site monitoring and improving the productivity of resources of the field? So this kind of resonates with you kind of touched upon, Suresh. Would you take this question?
Sure, Sri. Actually, as I said earlier, actually, with the kind of, especially because of cloud and these days, the infra is not a limitation as far as Mason said. Connecting different sites, remote sites, is no longer a challenge, right? And you have tools and techniques in terms of having lightweight clients, even if the bandwidth is not very high. So what typically happens is basically you can pretty much connect those things and make it as part of the core if it is an inventory you're talking about, as part of a sub-inventory for the overall organization, at site level inventory can be maintained. You can have a complete visibility of equipments, what is inside and what is being allocated, what is being idle for how long it has been idle, and how long is going to be idle there. Accordingly, I can take it and take a decision to move it to somewhere else, actually, right? So overall, getting a visibility is one of the important things to improve this kind of control on the site. Second thing is basically how a platform as such can help organizations in case of a labor implementing biometric systems or proximity readers, and see who is working, who is not working, and what's the resource shortage do we have, or how many resources do we need in the upcoming days. All these different things can be controlled from a central point of view if all the sites are connected. And establishing that connectivity, as I said earlier, actually in my digitization discussion and answer to the digitization question, connectivity is the key, and that is what we can do.
Perfect. Thank you, Suresh. We have a next question from Deepika. Thank you, Deepika, for the question. What is a typical implementation time for a industry vertical solution? Maisa, would you take this? Then I will take Suresh's opinion also, because I want to check with you from EPC perspective. Then we can get the product-related nuances. Please.
As Suresh mentioned earlier, I think the first thing is that is the company or is the customer ready to adopt leading practices or best practices? If they're ready to adopt that, trust me, it's very quick. It may sound airy-fairy, but it's not. Honestly speaking, we can deploy financials, basic inventory, basic CRM fairly quickly for an EPC company as well. I would say anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the organization. But as soon as you talk about advanced, talk about customization, that can go longer. But the whole mantra is deliver fast and get value fast. What do you
Perfect. Suresh, yeah. Thank you. Sorry for skipping, Suresh. I'll take one last question because we are almost done. So I'll skip to the next question. Suresh, you please take this question. Danya, thanks for the question. Yeah. How basically, EPC industry ERP support integration on other products like a PLM or a CAD or a building management information system from an integration perspective? Can you throw some light? Because this we would have as a last question because we're out of time. If this will close, yeah.
Correct. So this is where, if you remember again, one of the points, as I have mentioned earlier, having some kind of rationalization and making sure that actually process standardization, right? When you look at different systems, there can be multiple systems in an organization. It could be an estimation system, it could be a CRM systems, it could be building information modeling system, it could be some drawing systems like AutoCAD or a SolidWorks kind of systems actually, right? And let's say Primavera, a P3, P6 kind of system, Microsoft Projects kind of systems, so on and so forth. There can be a lot of system available in an organization. Now, some of them can be very well being brought into the core ERP spectrum itself actually. Now, estimation can be a key functionality within ERP. If you are using an existing system and it's been, people are quite familiar with that, why don't we integrate that with the ERP, right? So what we have done from a verticalization point of view, we are always mindful about the investment, what you have done, and the change management, what we are going to experience during the implementation. So the less disruption we can make it during an implementation the implementation is going to be much more successful, right? So we have already built standard connectors within ERP in our verticalization project for interfacing with your P3, P6 or your Microsoft projects, or you say that actually your estimation system or your CAD system, so on and so forth, right? Or BIM system as well. So that is what the verticalization project we undertook in terms of helping organizations to quickly transition from their traditional or homegrown system, which is not highly efficient these days, to a system which will make things to do in a slightly different, not slightly different way, in a completely different way, but the results are going to be, I would say, much higher, and the efficiency improvement is going to be in a much larger scale, right? That is what we do, and we help organizations to achieve.
Perfect. Thank you, Suresh. Maitham and Suresh, thank you so much for being with us and enthralling our audience with your industry insights. And thank you very much. Appreciate your time and effort for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're closing the session. And audience, feel free to participate in this survey. Thank you all.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.